Hi, Eddie Troxler here. This is another episode of Jazz Chat. I'm at FATV Studios in Fitchburg, Massachusetts. So I thought I would just maybe go over some of the stuff I do, for practice and some of the stuff I play. Sometimes it seems like, well, what do I practice? Tell students, well, you got to practice, an hour a day or whatever. So if you have stuff, and not that you have to do that every single day, but I think some consistency in it. For me, it took a long time of practicing these things to incorporate them into my playing. Maybe similar to learning, literature or something. You wouldn't be able to read, War and Peace if you didn't have a good grasp on the alphabet and sentence structure and all that stuff. So the same with playing music, you got to keep adding to that vocabulary, to me. And it just comes from a lot of years of doing it. So one thing I do encourage, and there's a couple of downloads on jazzchat.org. There's, and I've talked about this before, the triads on the high three strings. That's a good start. C, these are major. I'm playing C, E, G, and if you can pull that sheet up, these are right in the right on that sheet. C, E, G, E, that's C, E, G, then E, G, C, and then G, C, E. And do that in every key. So that's, starting with the one from the root position on the third fret, first finger on the third fret. That's my C. These two are on the fifth fret. And then I'm on the seventh, or the eighth rather, sorry. And just think about, where that root is. That's kind of like an F shape. And then you can call that a D shape up on the 12th. But then if I'm going around the circle of fifths as a practice, maybe put the metronome on super slow at first, or maybe without the metronome in the beginning until you can get it, and then start practicing with the metronome. When I go to G, I'm going to start with this shape on the third fret. So the same three shapes, and they'll always go in the same order. Then I go to D, right? And go around the circle of fifths, or maybe do 4 different ones per day. 3 days you can go through the whole circle of fifths. But also then start maybe looking at going this way on the fingerboard and learning these notes. So if that's my C triad, whatever I take off of here, I'm going to put on here. So I have those shapes. Those are in my book, the Blues Rock to Bach book. I think it says Intro to Arpeggios. Like I say, I thought I was gonna have a guest, so we were gonna be jamming. But anybody, if you're watching and you would like to come on as a guest, it's pretty spontaneous. You don't have to be a certain level of player. We can just talk about whatever. Preferably music related. If we do other people's music, it has to be public domain or original music. So that the triads go on that direction too. I don't use those as much, and then so whatever I take off of that string is going to go on this one. That one is. So learning those shapes in different keys too, and then it'll help you learn the note names of the neck. One really simple exercise that I was taught as far as learning the notes is to find a note on every string to a metronome. Like say, if we start with a G, right? A G there. missed one. So I'd make myself go back, right? That was G, so C would be, you know, here. And that really helps you learn that neck. Because the guitar is not laid out like a piano or anything. So even people who don't read music, they kind of know. They're either thinking in patterns or they know how to find what key the other people are in by visual or thinking about the music, you know. So that's one thing. And then once you get really get those happening, so do the majors, right? The high three strings first. Do the minors. The only difference between a major and a minor is you lower the third, so. But those pictures, the pictures of those are on Jazz Chat, the triads. So the minors. Then. So that one's like a staircase, and this is just like a straight line, right? And then this one is like, and then with G, you know, you can start with that one. And another thing I do as far as that goes, the pentatonic scales that are in the back of my book, the From Blues Rock to Bach. If you take a look at those, like the ones we learned in the beginning, right? That's the, you know, a lot of people learn that A minor pentatonic, but there's different. You know, there's 5 different patterns because it's a 5-note scale. So learn all of those, but then notice how those triads fit into that. You'll see, you can circle them with that pattern of the pentatonic. So, say if I'm doing that one, you know, that's like the back side of that A minor, which is that. So that's him. So if I'm on that, you know. Or if I'm on this shape, right, that's right there, you know. And then I have that arpeggio right there too, you know. If you listen to a lot of Hendrix, he would play those chords sometimes, you know. Rather than, you know, you learn these bar chords and you learn these bar chords, but you don't see a lot of books give you that shape with the little finger as the root. It's really like you're playing a G chord, you know, you're moving it. So you hear a lot of those Hendrix licks, you know. You know, that type of stuff. I'm not supposed to. So I think you can do 8 measures of someone else's song. So I won't play the whole song for ASCAP and BMI. You know, all those executives got to get paid, I suppose. But yeah, you can. The cool part about it, that shape, you can get those runs off it. So those triads and incorporating them into that pentatonic. And then, you know, once you have your pentatonics, maybe you figure out how that relates to the major scale. And then you're thinking about what they call modes. Then, you know, the minor pentatonic comes from the Aeolian or natural minor. So, you know, if you think la, ti, do, right? It's just a major scale you're starting and ending on la, you know, and then a C major, do, re. You know what I mean? Same pattern. So then really, I know there's a lot of different schools of thought on all of this stuff. You know, I always turn on the internet or YouTube or something, and somebody's got this. You know, you've been practicing the wrong thing all these years. Well, okay. Or they have a quick way of a shortcut to learning something, but truthfully, I haven't really found any ways to get better without a lot of practice, you know. I mean, but I think really enjoying what you're doing and having a passion for it, you're going to put that time in. But do just play what you want, you know, leave some time for free play, I would call it. You know, just get up and play. And then try to get some of the technical stuff to get to the next level. That's just my opinion. And so after you get to triads, then I would look at the seventh chords on the high 4 strings, because I do use those a lot too. And the difference between a major triad and major seventh. So the major seventh, you have a root third, fifth, and then the seventh, you know, or, you know, so that in the key of C, you know, you have a C, E, G, B, which is not the same as a C7. A C7 or dominant 7, you have a flat 7, which you probably see those a little bit more, you know, especially in blues and stuff. I was supposed to have a blues player on today, so you get that, you know, that dominant sound. And then a lot of times you'll throw in the ninth too. Say if that's a plain old C chord, and then I add that flat 7, right there. Then I add a D, will be a 9. So that's a chord you see a lot. Probably one of the, for me, it was a breakthrough to learn those shapes. I used to go see this guy in my hometown of Greensboro, Bob Margolin. I'm sure he doesn't mind if I mention his name. He's a pretty well-known blues player. I think he's still doing it because he had played for Muddy, you know, when he was like young. But I would watch him play, and then I'd go home and try these chords, you know. And now I would watch him. He was always using that. But we use it in jazz a lot. You have these 2 5s, like say if I'm B minor 7. Well, yeah, we'll go. I'll do it to a G. So if I go A minor 7 to a D9, see how that kind of. And I'm just doing the A minor 7th is flatten across the 5th fret, and then I'm gonna drop those straight down, you know, so it's easy to get to. Right, and then you can hear how that wants to flow to that, you know. You know. You also, I mean, that's the most common cadence, a 2-5-1. But you can also substitute. Sometimes you kind of get tired of hearing those 2-5-1s, I suppose. But a lot of times you're just, you know, that's just like chromatically. That would probably use a diminished there. And it depends on what your melody is doing too. You know, whether you want to use a lot of different stuff. And sometimes you'll notice in the real book tunes or whatever that the melody is why they have that, you know, say a ninth, you know. So if it was something like a minor ninth, maybe because my melody was. you know, the ninth is part of my melody. But anyway, those seventh chord inversions on the high four strings, I would say after you've learned those triads really good, start practicing those seventh chords. So a dominant seventh, that's probably the dominant seventh that you already know. I mean, I think people learn that G7. That's a root third, fifth, and a flat seven. That's probably like blues and stuff is all dominant sevenths a lot of times. So that, but if you just took the high four strings, you're doing this. You know, it comes from that. Just do the high four strings. And the inversions. And these are these are in the book. Actually, they're on the web, on the jazzchat.org. You can download them for free. Just really send me an email if you have any trouble downloading any of that, and I'll try to get it fixed. And feel free to make comments anytime, or stuff you would want to see. And if you want to be a guest, probably if you're in some other area, I think I can do a virtual interview if you want, but I don't think we would be able to play. You know, there's that latency thing. You know, we can play stuff separate, of course, but as far as jamming together, I don't think they've gotten a way to work that yet. A lot of people said they did, but I don't. We would probably know about it if it did work pretty well. So you have that shape, you have this shape. That's like a D7 with your first finger added. I'm playing. But really, look at those shapes. Then this shape. That's the seventh chords. The minor sevenths would be that shape, the flattened. And this is like. What I'm thinking about, too, going up the neck, are the chord tones. Root, third, fifth, seventh, right? Root, third. So that shape. I use that one a lot. This one too. So, those are dominant, then minors. So, sorry. And then I think I may have mentioned this on here before, but it's important. The major sevenths, that's why I'm coming back to those. I'm substituting some of them with major six chords, like the first one. Like I could put that major seventh in there. It just, for one thing, it doesn't sound too good, and it's not that comfortable. So I was taught these voicings by a teacher at Berkeley, Charles Chapman, who was an awesome teacher. I was so sad that he passed. I guess it was just maybe health issues or a weak heart or something. Someone told me, but it was such a great teacher. Really, really passionate about teaching jazz, and it was a jazz player too, a working jazz musician. But he showed me the substitutions, and those are much easier to grab, and that's the ones I put up. So you have this shape, which I'm putting an E there, E and an A, so that's 6/9, But it still fits, you know what I mean? If there's a melody note that clashes, you can just alter it slightly. This shape does have all the notes. That's a G, a D, an F sharp, and a B. So, but you can hear how it still flows pretty good. And then I actually go back to that same shape here for the fifth. So that. Then this one, I'm putting that seventh up top. And those are all the notes of that one. So those are the ones and I would say, you know, really get those under your fingers, because when you're playing that, you want it to come out without it sounding like you're thinking about it. I mean, if I can play 8 measures of something, so sometimes, you know what I mean? Yeah, that's the 8 measure. You probably know that song, right? So when we play in restaurants or venues, we're allowed to play all those covers that you want. So if you want to come and see me, I'm at Dario's Wednesday and Saturday. That's on Main Street in Fitchburg. I believe it is the maybe the 600 block. I think it's the 600 block, right on the corner. Across from like the Fay Club, but just before you get to City Hall in Fitchburg, Massachusetts, Dario's restaurant. And then Friday nights I'm at Tacos Tequila. And just background jazz, but feel free to come and talk to me. You know, you can sit in on some tunes. Just give me a shout prior, you know, if you want to play some tunes with me or something. I'm at Bandoleros in Devon's every other Thursday. Not so I can give you a schedule on that. Today I think is about today I'm not there today. So today is March 5th. So I will be there next week. Every other week I'm at in Devon's. But always getting more places to play and stuff, and private events too. I think I have an art opening to play this Saturday, as well as the Dario's at Boulder Art Gallery. So maybe check that out if you happen to watch this before Saturday the 8th. I don't know if I'll have it posted by then. I'll try. So yeah, we talked about practicing those triads and practicing those 7th chord inversions, and then incorporate them into some songs, some chord soloing. I think I did Georgia, you know, like recently, because it became public domain this year, you know, and that's kind of what I do with them. You know, I'm just kind of, not that you have to put a chord for every note, but kind of you incorporate it in there, and it's good for solo guitar for sure, but also when you're with a whole band, you know, just understanding those chords and what the melody notes and how that fits together. Because the low ones, you know, we learn in the beginning. Most people learn that major 7. You learn the major bar chords, the major 7th bar chord. That's a 6. But also these ones that you're learning down here, like that. Anything on the high string, you could, like if you need bass lines, you know, you can put what's on the high string on the low string too. And you don't even necessarily have to have all of those notes, you know what I mean? Like you see a lot of those, the earlier swing guys that did a lot of solo stuff, Bucky Pizzarelli and those guys, they were more on the low notes, so they have those bass notes, yeah. And then, you know, the Django stuff too, he also did with another guitar player, sometimes with bass, but sometimes not, and sometimes no drums either, you know, a lot of times no drums with those. So they're kind of holding up the percussion with the guitar. They're also doing some bass line. You know what I mean? Well, no, that's what I'm telling you. But so that and last week and I think on another episode I was with it was a couple of weeks ago. With Michael Greenstein, we were talking about rhythm changes, which is you know, that's a good thing to practice as well. Rhythm changes is like the in jazz is probably the second most common chord progression. Is, you know, blues would be the most common, you know, just the 1 4 5. Make a 2 5 into the 1. Another 2 5. It just kind of makes it sound jazzy as opposed to, you know, if a rock player is playing blues, they're gonna go the 1 chord. Then to the 4 chord. 2 measures. These are all in the front of my book too. Beginning guitar blues. So that's in the simplest form, but you know, just take that a step further. It's still blues in A. So there's a lot of different things you can do with it. But those rhythm changes after, you know, you have a good grasp on the blues. That's that. It's a 1 6 2 5. I mean, a lot of times it is in B flat. I think that's for the horn players. So guitar players, we generally don't start out playing a lot of songs in B flat, but horn players don't particularly like the key of E. Or A. For a trumpet or clarinet or tenor sax, if we're playing in E, they gotta play 2 more sharps, so they're in F sharp. And if we're in A, they're gonna be in B, 5 sharps. Yeah, so that's kind of why horn players would prefer like E flat blues or something. So just learn it, you know, in those different keys. So, but also you'll get singers and stuff. They want to change the key of something. But anyway, those rhythm changes are so like a 1 6 2 5. You can just do that again if. And then most of the time they bum, bum. Me and Michael were talking about, you know, you can 2 5 back, but you can a lot. I've also heard a lot of people, they'll just go, they'll go bum. So bum, bum, bum. Those rhythm changes. But listen to some horn players. Those horn lines are pretty cool. Like so that's a blues, you know. That's the chord change. That's the changes to Blues for Alice, Charlie Parker tune. 1 2 3 4, bah, bah, bah. So there's a lot going on there. And the bah. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks to FATV. Give us a like, you know, subscribe to our channel, jazzchat.org. Thank you.